right, so this is gonna be another episode of True Wrestling Fans, our retro series covering pay-per-views. This is gonna be WrestleMania 5. So I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's jump right into it. This was April 2nd, 1989, at once again Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. 18,946 people in attendance at this one. So they pretty much had the same crowd like WrestleMania 4. Same action packed thing. They had a stacked card. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, go.
The opening matchup, you had Hercules versus King Haku. Now, if everybody remembers, Hercules was still feuding with the Heenan family
Yep.
over the whole thing with Ted DiBiase. And at the time, Haku was the reigning king.
Because he beat he took it from
Was it Harley Race?
Harley Race, yeah.
Yeah, because Harley was leaving because he left at the beginning of '89, and by that point he had left the Heenan family. He was a brief fan favorite before he left because he fought at the Rumble that year, but in a singles match. And so this match was pretty good. It showed Hercules' power and stamina. It was a short match, 6 minutes, 57 seconds. Hercules beats Haku, but it showed that he could get over with the fans. They really loved him, and he could have been, a mid-card champion at some point.
I mean, Hercules was okay. I mean, he had a good look to him.
And the fans liked it.
And the fans liked him, but he wasn't much of a worker,
But once again, the one thing that kills most guys is the mic skills.
Yeah.
Which he really didn't possess. But I don't even think, honestly, he was on the mic a whole lot anyway.
No, I don't remember too much of him on the mic,
And to be honest, I think his run as fan favorite only lasted about 2 years before he went heel and teamed with Paul Romer in Power and Glory.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then he had Slick by his side, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
But overall, pretty decent match, good opener. It wasn't something that they just threw together. So, like I've always said, your two most important matches at a pay-per-view are your opening and closing match. So this one was pretty solid. Our next match was pretty much like a David versus Goliath, only it went in reverse. This was the Twin Towers, Big Boss Man and Akeem, formerly the one-man gang for anybody who doesn't know, which I don't know why they changed it, but whatever. Facing Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty of the Rockers. Now, I got to agree with Jesse Ventura in this one when he said they have to run, they have to hide, they have to move, and it wasn't happening for them. No matter what they did to these two behemoths.
They couldn't put a dent in them,
And at the time, they were doing stuff that was unheard of in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
All the high-flying stuff that most tag teams weren't doing together. But it just wasn't working with these two big walls. And in 8 minutes, 2 seconds, the Twin Towers got the win over the Rockers. And it was a shame because I was actually hoping that they could surprise the world and get over on them.
Yeah, I did like, and Lewis in the group, he loves when it's Shawn Michaels that gets caught, right? He tries to do the splash off the top rope.
Yes, and was it
Bossman or Akeem?
I think it was Akeem. One of them caught him. It doesn't matter.
And just squashes him. You thought they were going to try to get some momentum, and then takes him, squashes him. 1, 2, 3. But I thought that actually the match was okay for what it was. It was a good contrast, the whole different styles, and the Rockers showed that they could put on an entertaining match.
Yeah, and at first I was skeptical about putting these two guys together, especially when they re-gimmicked One Man Gang. I thought that was a pretty decent character for him, but when they went to Akeem the African Dream, I mean, it was all right as long as they were in tag team action, and it worked for a while when they feuded with the Mega Powers.
Yeah. The Twin Towers were like a pretty believable heel team because it was so big. And remember, that's when the Bossman was huge.
Yes,
when he first came in, because when he goes solo, he ends up losing a lot of weight.
Yeah,
Bossman was huge when he was part of the Twin Towers.
When they split that tag team up, it was just Bossman had a better direction than Akeem did, because now Akeem is just like, okay, what are we going to do with him? And unfortunately,
pretty much. I mean,
they're also another tag team I say that could have made a brief run with a tag title, because I mean they did handle themselves pretty good. They had matches with Demolition. They had the couple of superstar wrestling matches with the Harts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they handled themselves pretty good in the ring. So it was a good victory for them. Yeah. Unfortunate for Shawn and Marty.
And Marty squashed.
Our next match on the card was Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And then I still don't know what this was. I think one of those put together matches.
Yeah, I don't remember how their beef started. I don't even remember
If there was any.
Yeah, if there was any, I'm sure there was something that happened on one of those shows, but I don't really remember.
I mean, I know later on they had a couple of feuds, little short-lived ones, but for any event in this match, it lasted 10 minutes, 1 second. Unfortunately, there was no winner, so each one of them saved face. It was a double count out.
Yeah, that's when Brutus was kind of on the. He was on his way up.
Yeah, he was. Came back from injury, lost his Intercontinental title opportunity. Was trying to get back to it.
Yeah, get back in the picture.
So, but unfortunately, the title with 1989 was occupied by two gentlemen that he wasn't going to be facing. So, but it was a pretty good match. They both saved face. Nobody lost.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at Biasi coming off the main event a year earlier to the third match the following year. You got to wonder if it's a step down for him. But a guy like Brutus Beefcake, it's not a step down.
Yeah,
match.
no, not at all. Not at all.
Coco Beware is a step down match.
Yeah, Jesus.
The next match on the card was and this was an upset when the Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch, defeated the fabulous Rougeau brothers in 9 minutes, 10 seconds.
Yeah, that I didn't get because the Rougeau brothers, at that point, they had already held the titles, right? I'm pretty sure they already had.
No, they were never the tag champions. No, they were feuding with the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, they were feuding with the Hart.
Left Jimmy Hart's clan.
Yeah, because they bought the contract. Jimmy Hart.
But they never. Yeah, they never. Now, I mean, Jacques Rougeau.
But they were in the picture
later on. Yeah, they were in the title picture.
They never held it. But they never actually got it. Yeah, but
Jacques
they were still.
Rougeau eventually went on to the Quebecers.
Right.
He won the tag team titles, and of course, he was the Mountie Intercontinental Champion.
Right.
But they were in the picture, but they never.
So for them to lose to the Bushwhackers, I didn't understand. Like, what was the point of that?
To have the Bushwhackers, I don't know, to stay relevant. I mean, they were already over with the fans. The fans always loved their wacky entrances with the hands and stuff. I mean, to me that was always a tag team that you never had. They didn't need the titles because the fans already loved them. I honestly couldn't see it ever on them anyway.
No, that would have been.
And they got a couple of tag title shots, but nothing came out of it. Thank God. But that was an upset one to me, especially when the Rougeaus were up and comers, and especially in the tag team division back then, that was just stacked.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you look at the Survivor Series of '88 from the past year, and you had the 10-man tag team, and I mean it was just loaded top to bottom. So their tag team division was very stacked back then. Wish it was like that today.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, it's not. Our next match on the card was actually one of my favorites because it was the Blue Blazer, a.k.a. Owen Hart, versus Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig.
That's right.
Now, in any other WrestleMania past this into the future, this match goes an easy 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
5 minutes, 38 seconds. Mr. Perfect puts the Perfect Plex on the Blue Blazer. End of story.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was a good debut for both of them. But we didn't see the Blue Blazer again for 3 years, Owen Hart. And Mr. Perfect, this was his fast track because we all know what he went through towards the end of the year with the big push for the title that never happened. If everybody's watched the Uncrowned Champions from the 1990s. So, I mean, what was your take on the match?
It was fine. It was just too short, and it was a kind of disappointing. But at the same time, back then, you didn't really know what these guys could do. It's just looking back at it years later that you know the capabilities of these two guys, and you're like, wow, we had Perfect and Owen in the same ring, and this is what we got. But I thought it was fine. You know, it's WrestleMania. They probably only had so much time, too, with all the other matches and everything, and the promos in between.
I remember that one they were saying before they edited the whole thing was like 7 hours because they had started it, I think, at 1 PM.
Really?
And they had a whole WrestleMania festivity on the boardwalk. And stuff. So so you're right. They probably had a time restraint on it. But I mean, you look at what you had then, and it was just the Blue Blazer, Mr. Perfect. We can look back at it now and say, "Wow, you had these two guys facing each other. This could have been so much better." But at that time, it was what it was.
Yeah.
So, but it was a good WrestleMania debut for Mr. Perfect, and it was the start of success for him.
Yep, he's on his way.
Our next match was a 2-on-3 handicap match for the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championships. my boys, Demolition, against what I would say is my second favorite tag team back then, the Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji. I love Mr. Fuji. You talk about a guy that just gets in there and does what he does.
I did really like Mr. Fuji, but at the same time, I felt like it was kind of stupid to have him in that match.
Well, mainly because he was the one that turned on Demolition at Survivor Series.
Yeah, I know he was part of the story, but at the same time, but think about it. Like, if you're trying to build the Powers of Pain, why do you have them have Fuji versus the Demolition? It should be.
And then he was the one that was pinned.
Right, and he's the one that he takes their finisher.
Axe pinned Fuji, and that was the end of the match.
Yeah.
But see, the one thing with that feud was it wasn't building up. I think that feud buried the Powers of Pain.
It did, absolutely.
Because the minute they turned at Survivor Series and they kept fighting in house shows for the tag titles and then go to WrestleMania, it was loss after loss after loss. Not count out disqualification, straight up pinfall.
Yeah.
So by that point now, they took a really, what I thought could have been a dominant tag team, because when they came in early '88 as fan favorites, I loved them.
Yeah.
I thought they could have been one of the greats, and unfortunately they were buried. And then if you remember, Fuji in the storyline had sold them off.
Yeah.
To where Warlord went on with Slick and Barbarian went to the Heenan family.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like that they broke them up, because they could have still been good. But yeah, they were buried from the day one of that feud.
And like I said, I just felt like that was just kind of burying them too. Like, they didn't do them any favors without having them just in a straight up match, versus Demolition. And I thought the match was okay. I mean, the Powers of Pain. I mean, could the match have been better? Probably, but I guess
minus Fuji.
Yeah,
But then after that, they really, like I said, they didn't really do anything with the Powers of Pain. And by the end of the year, I think they were disbanded already.
Yeah, the sad thing is that for that to be the blow off of their feud, I just felt like that's it. Like that feud was hot, and
those were the two biggest tag teams in the WWE at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And you're facing each other WrestleMania 5, and but my boys came out on top, so that was a positive.
Yeah, and it was cool seeing Fuji getting the finisher. That was hilarious.
Oh, anytime watching Fuji get his butt kicked. Because, like I said, he always got involved. The following year, WrestleMania 6, we'll get into that where he gets involved. Our next match after that was kind of a go to the restroom or go to the snack vending machine. When you had Rugged Ronnie Garvin facing Dino Bravo. And when Garvin came back to the WWE, he had an automatic feud with Jimmy Hart's Clan, which ended at Royal Rumble 90 when he faced Greg the Hammer Valentine, and when he finally got his submission match.
That feud I actually liked. The Greg Valentine, that was a good feud.
It was submission specialist and a submission specialist, and that maybe they should have fought at this WrestleMania.
Right, but this one,
they booked Valentine in another match I'll get to in a minute.
Yeah,
but this one, there was besides Garvin having a feud with the Hart family, I really didn't see a build up for him to face Dino Bravo. It was just
not at all.
Jimmy Hart putting one of his boys up against him.
Yeah, you know what the sad thing about Garvin is? I think Garvin, when he was with the NWA, I'm pretty sure he had the title.
Yes, he was a success there.
Yeah, and then he comes over here and he's in a throwaway match.
Like many guys, like Bad News Brown had huge success in the independents and other organizations, and again they did nothing with him. Rugged Ronnie Garvin was the same thing.
Yeah,
remember the same thing happened with Dusty Rhodes. I mean, Dusty Rhodes is a former NWA/WCW World Champion. He comes over to WWE
and put him in polka dots.
Polka dots, and I mean, his only success was a feud with Savage. Really, I mean, the others were
But his theme song was pretty good, though.
Oh, I love the theme song.
Yeah, it was really catchy. But outside of that was another waste.
Yeah,
that was another. Waste.
So Rugged Ronnie Garvin, who was only there, I believe, a little over a year. Nothing was done, and this match, Dino Bravo got the win. His patented side suplex slam, 3 minutes 6 seconds. We're done.
That's it.
So there was no faith. There was no faith into that one. It was just all right, go out there and come back. Unfortunately, now this next match I liked, and I saw the signs coming to this when I was a kid. It was Strike Force, Tito Santana and Rick Martel versus the Brainbusters of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Now, for everybody that doesn't know, shortly after Demolition beat Strike Force for the tag titles 1 year prior, they did an angle to where Martel was injured. However, in real life, he took some time off to be with his wife who was ill. He comes back, they reunite shortly before WrestleMania. So they get the Brainbusters, which is it was a great tag team. Tito Santana accidentally hits him. You remember with the flying forearm.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. And now you got Martel outside the ring, holding his chin. Santana's inside getting his butt kicked. When Santana finally goes for the tag, Martel just waves him off and leaves. So now this team is done.
And that's it, yeah.
They broke him up, decided to go a different route, and the Brainbusters do the Piledriver spike. Santana loses. They lose the match in 9 minutes, 17 seconds. And Brainbusters get the win. Strike Force is no more. Santana and Martel begin their year-long feud.
Yeah.
But I saw the signs coming to it when he came back. I think it was a few weeks before Mania, and they put the two teams together, and I was like, well, something's not right here. It's a little off.
Yeah, you knew something was coming.
But it was better off for both of them because I think they were better singles competitors than they were a tag team. I mean, Santana tried it previously. He was the tag champion with Ivan Putski for a while back in the day. Rick Martel did the tag team thing with the Can-Am Connection. But you remember Martel was a great singles competitor in AWA. He was a former champion.
No, he was a great worker. I mean, the only reason those guys ended up together was because Tom Zank left.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Because if Tom Zank sticks around, they eventually get the tag titles.
They stay together.
They stay together, you know? So.
But this was just also another notch in the losing streak for Tito Santana, who is now on a 4 WrestleMania losing streak. Poor guy. Halftime of the show, remember they had the Piper's Pit at WrestleMania where they brought back the famous Roddy Piper.
Right.
And the special guest was Morton Downey Jr. Now, it wasn't Piper that came out at first, if you remember. Remember Brother Love came out,
yeah.
Dressed as him.
With the kilt, yeah.
Oh, my God, that Brother Love. I swear. And then Piper eventually comes out. Then you said they had gone off script.
Yeah, apparently, from what I understand, Bruce Pritchard spoke about this. They were only supposed to go on for a few minutes, and they went way over. And they just kept going back. Piper and Morton Downey kept going back and forth, trading barbs, and they weren't supposed to go that long. And it just dragged out, and that he got screamed at by Vince, but then Vince told Piper that he did a good job.
Well, he was getting this. Morton Downey kept blowing the smoke in his face and the cigarettes, and he kept saying, "Don't blow no more smoke in my face." And then he turns around, and here comes the fire extinguisher.
And they said that they had to because they said after that Morton Downey didn't know or didn't listen that you have to just stop, let Piper go, and he was chasing Piper, and they had to edit it because he was trying to get to Piper.
Whatever.
So it was good though. I enjoyed it.
It was a fun segment to bring Piper back because remember he's gone for 2 years at the WrestleMania 3. This was his return.
And people that don't remember or don't know who Morton Downey Jr. was at that time, he was kind of that was the pinnacle of his success, where he was kind of like a Howard Stern kind of type.
He had a talk show, didn't he?
Yeah, it was. Then? It was on Channel 9.
Yeah,
he was based out of New Jersey too, so he was kind of like a very controversial. Like he was on the edge. So he was very popular at that particular time.
Well, anyway, we go on to our next match, which is on paper, again, it's another David versus Goliath match because you got Andre the Giant versus Jake the Snake Roberts.
Right.
Special guest referee in this one, Big John Studd.
That's right.
Now, we all know the history between Andre and Big John. They hated each other. And this was the year that Big John Studd made his return to the WWE. Because remember, he won the 1989 Royal Rumble. And
he was going to push.
Push. He was, but I think he left shortly after this.
He did. And supposedly it's because he hated Andre and Andre hated him. And Andre kept messing with him. And he was like, I can't deal with Andre anymore. And he left. Supposedly that's what happened.
Well, I believe it because I had seen their friction over the years fighting.
They didn't like each other. They didn't like.
No.
You know what it was? It was because Andre was like the giant.
Yeah.
And he didn't want anybody else with a similar gimmick he was like a big guy too.
Which Big John was about 7 foot.
Yeah, and he was very protective, and I guess that's why he didn't like him. That's where it stemmed from. Kind of petty, but whatever. It is what it is.
Well, for whatever reason, Big John Studd being the referee in that match helped Jake the Snake Roberts get the win that you wouldn't normally.
No,
I mean 9 times out of 10, Andre's beating him.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just the size of these two guys, there's just no way. But Andre choked out Big John, and he lets the disqualification, and Jake the Snake wins.
Right.
Because remember, Andre was afraid of the snakes too.
Yeah, but this is what I was gonna bring up. He was on the snake pit before when it was probably a couple years prior. He was on the snake pit, and the snakes were right there, and he wasn't afraid of them.
Andre.
Andre. And then later on, all of a sudden, he was scared of snakes.
Do you remember? I think it was at the Survivor Series. It was Jake. It was the one in '89. Was it 1989 that they fought each other? Yeah, it was later on that year that Jake the Snake was. It was like 3 against 1, and Andre was one of the guys or whatever. And he goes in, he throws the snake in, and I never seen him run out of the ring so fast.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it was terrified, just. Yeah. You saw how agile this big man was. Yeah. So, but this to me was the start of Andre's decline.
He was already he was already broken down at that point. He couldn't do as much.
Once right after the Royal Rumble that year, I could start seeing it. And he's put into this is a mid-card match. The last 2 years, you're involved in the title, and nothing against Jake Roberts. Working with him, is still it's legit. But now he's taken the loss at 3 consecutive WrestleManias.
Yep. And
with a 4th to come when we get to that. But the only way Jake Roberts can win is by DQ. So having Big John in there worked in his favor. So the next match after that continues the Jimmy Hart feud, and that would be Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation, taking on Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Yeah. You can call them Rhythm and Blues. I mean, a year later they were.
A year later, that's before they had the name, but yeah.
Yeah. What did Gorilla Monsoon call Greg Valentine? Boxcars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wasn't a fan of him. But what's funny in this one is Honky and Greg Valentine's shenanigans with Jimmy Hart backfired. Because if you remember, the Anvil had caught Jimmy Hart's megaphone. It was, he was trying to throw it to Honky. Anvil catches the megaphone, hits Honky with it, and Bret rolls up Honky for the win, and the Hart Foundation get the victory.
Yep.
And the fans were kind of cheering the Hart Foundation, but I don't know if you noticed this. It kind of took a while for the fans to get over with them. I guess considering everything they had done as heels.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
They were like the ultimate heels with Jimmy Hart, and
they were really good. They were really good heels.
Yeah, they've been fan favorites at this point now about 9-10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still like the fans had to warm up, kind of like the way the fans were with Roman Reigns. Like, okay, you are a fan favorite, but we're still kind of booing you. And it took a while, but eventually they caught on to them. I think later that year is when they were officially on board with them.
Yeah.
But it was a good match, and the Harts got the victory. It's 7 minutes, 40 seconds, a little short, but a lot longer than their next WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So from there, we go to one of the best, I think the best Intercontinental title matches of 1989. And that was the Ultimate Warrior defending the Intercontinental title against Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yeah, that was a really good match.
Those two, I could watch their matches all the time. Not like John Cena and Randy Orton where they fought 20-something times and it's like, oh, God, not another one. If you gave me Rude and Warrior on a monthly basis, I'd be fine with it. Because the way those two were in the ring together, it was just magic.
Yeah,
Rude really knew how to sell Warrior's power.
Oh, yeah.
Especially getting whipped into the corner.
Turnbuckles,
he's holding his back, trying to do his move. And he took a beating from pillar to post. And those two always put on a great match. Unfortunately, in this match, Rick Rude, he did win the Intercontinental title thanks to Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah.
Heenan was holding the leg down. Warrior gets pinned. Rude becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. That match was just shy under 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 36 seconds. And if you remember, Warrior got a hold of Heenan after the match and beat the holy hell out of him. And that was going to hurt because later on, Bobby Heenan had a match. that I'll get to in a sec. But
yeah, if you see the Warrior just dropped him.
Yes.
Yeah, it looked like he took a bad bump. That Heenan took a bad bump.
He busted up. I think he busted up his rib or something.
Yeah, and Heenan did not like him. Heenan did not like him at all.
A lot of people at that time didn't because they thought he was reckless.
That's what Heenan said, that he didn't care, that he just dropped him. And
Andre especially, we've covered that before. Andre told him to slow down in the ring, and he decked him. Of course, it did nothing to him.
Right.
But yeah, back then he was a little reckless. I get the words out. Little reckless, but he still put on a good match. Our next match on the card was Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Bad News Brown.
That's right.
Now, again, I think this was just a put together match.
Yeah, it felt
because
like
I don't think there was any heat with these two guys leading up to it. And again, 3 minutes 49 seconds, the time limit of the match ended in a double disqualification. So I mean, it was just like, just go out there, kill a little bit of time, come on back.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because nothing was done with Bad News. Hacksaw was never a couple of title matches, but they never pushed him.
No.
But the fans loved him.
Yeah, he was always a fan favorite.
If you can get a few guys, if you use that moniker, the People's Champ, I mean, he could be considered one of them because regardless of what he did, the fans just loved him. He was very patriotic. They loved that too, especially that time of with everything going on. So, but two big behemoths, sluggers, brawlers going at it, ends in a double DQ. It was what it was. Our next match was 31 seconds. And this was what we were talking about a minute ago, was the Red Rooster beating Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Oh, God.
Now, again, you always had said, and I agreed, that Vince McMahon always had to put his own moniker on a wrestler. Now, everybody knows that Red Rooster is a.k.a. Terry Taylor.
Yep.
Who always had success in WCW, but when he comes here, they put the brand of the Red Rooster on him. And he started out in the Heenan family as a heel, and then Heenan got sick of him, gets rid of him. So what do we do? Okay, well, we'll have Red Rooster face him at WrestleMania instead of one of the Heenan members as it is. I don't know, man. I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, all right. If you know the story, so when Terry Taylor came in, he was one of the top prospects, guys that they got that they said this guy's going to be a star. He's a young guy. He's got everything. He's got all the tools. They decide on the Red Rooster gimmick. I believe Bruce Pritchard was a part of it, and they said the story is, well, think about it. He's cocky, he's very arrogant, and he's the cock of the town in the way that he walks. It made perfect sense for us to call him the Red Rooster.
Yeah.
So that's why they gave him the name, the Red Roosters, because he was supposed to be very cocky. And it was just terrible, and it was completely ridiculous. And for whatever reason, to this day, Bruce Pritchard still defends the gimmick. So
I don't understand why, because I mean, the gimmick just didn't make any sense. I mean, calling him Terry Taylor and letting him run with it would have been just fine. But I mean, some of back then they were. I believe that the quote was the characters were very cartoonish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess this just went into that. But yeah, I didn't go. I didn't like it.
No, it was terrible.
I didn't like the little red dyed hair. I didn't the song. He's coming out.
Yeah, he's doing the head movement, and
he goes back to WCW, and they actually made him relevant as Terry Taylor. He did, if you remember, he did make a brief return in 1993. He was in the '93 Rumble as Terry Taylor, and he had a couple of house shows against Randy Savage after that. But other than that, it was nothing.
Nah, they killed him. They killed him.
And to be honest, he was a better wrestling man because then he was backstage for WWE for quite some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match was just a throwaway.
Yeah.
But it led us to the main event. The Mega Powers exploding.
That's right. Which was a storyline that was built up for about a year, basically, since the last WrestleMania.
Yes, when Hogan, to me, stole the spotlight from Randy Macho Man Savage. And I don't care. I'm going to say it. I believe it was stolen from him. And they kept Hogan in the spotlight with Savage for an entire year when that boy could have done it himself.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's true. I understand how big Hogan was, but at the same time, it was like.
Eventually, you've got to pass the torch and let you put your title on the guy. Let him run with it. If that's the case, then you might as well make them co-champions. Because it's wherever Savage was, Hogan was too.
You know what's funny too? I don't know if you remember this on the Royal Rumble '89. Hogan cut a promo and they asked him, "Oh, what's going to happen if you go up against Macho Man?" He's like, "Well,
Yes.
if that happens, I have to do what I have to do." And then he starts saying how everyone still calls him the champ. And I'm like,
that was a plug.
yeah, but I'm like, you're a baby face. Like, that's something a heel would say. And a lot of what Ventura said, I know it's a storyline and everything, but it was true about the egomaniac and, him with Elizabeth.
Absolutely.
Why was he coming out with Elizabeth as his man? He kept putting Elizabeth in danger in the matches.
Because they were a tag team now, they were both being managed by her.
Yeah, but
remember they were the Mega Powers.
It's like Ventura said, he tried to steal his woman, then he's trying to steal
his title.
Steal his title.
And what was it that Savage told him on Saturday Night Main Event when he finally had it? He had lust in his eyes.
Yeah, he had lust in his eyes for Elizabeth. That was a whole crazy thing when he just leaves him for dead in the ring. Elizabeth gets and look, it looked like she took a bad bump too.
It did because she didn't land right. It didn't
right. When Macho Man falls out of the ring and falls on top, it looks she took a bad bump. But then Hogan just leaves him for dead. And even and remember, I'm a Hulkamaniac at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like, why is Hogan leaving him for dead? Like, why don't they call a paramedic or something?
He carries her to the back and leaves him in the ring in a tag team match.
Oh my God!
And they were facing the Twin Towers at the time.
It was the Twin Towers, yeah. And he left him for dead.
And then he comes back, and Savage goes to tag him, and he smacks him in the face.
Yeah.
Now by that point, at first it looks like Hogan's the one that's going to be the heel in this. And then they quickly turned it around when Savage slaps him. And then in the back of the infirmary, Savage attacks him with the belt. Yeah. And matter of fact, he challenged him at that point. If you want to come at this, come at me like a man. And Hogan's like, telling Elizabeth, could you please talk some sense to him? And he hits him with the belt. And now we're off to the races.
Yeah, there's a clip that was cut out of it's not on the network when they actually aired it. And Hulk Hogan is backstage with Elizabeth during the match, and he's like holding her hand. He's like, "Please, Elizabeth, please." And it's like really weird. Like it's kind of like creepy the way he's talking to Elizabeth. It's really weird, really weird. I can understand why they cut it out. You can still find it probably on YouTube somewhere.
Oh yeah, you can find anything on YouTube.
I think they caught this guy, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, wasn't supposed to be in the shot, but he was just hanging out, and like you could see him, and then he like moves out of frame. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Oh, they've done stuff like that before.
Yeah. So they have that whole thing, but I love the whole thing backstage after that. And he's like, like you said, you could have challenged me man to man or whatever. You got lust in your eyes. And he's like, no, talk some sense into him. Talk some sense. It's great.
Bam.
He smashes him. Hogan had it coming, man. If you ask me, Hogan had it coming. I would have kicked his ass.
I 100% agree because again, I'm the champion. This is my wife / my manager.
Yeah.
And you're taking everything over. Mm-hmm. And you could see how quickly he was turned from babyface to heel in a matter of weeks. Because remember, also right around that time, Randy Savage was feuding with Bad News Brown in WWF title matches. It was his last babyface match was a street fight that the two of them had on a house show. A couple of weeks later, all of a sudden now he's fighting the Ultimate Warrior. So now they've made the change.
Right, yeah,
and they're never going to change Hogan to heel.
No, not that.
So it unfortunately it had to be Savage. And to me, and if nobody agrees with me here, please comment and talk to me about this. Savage was the victim here.
He really was.
He's the champion, and he's the victim of all this, and he's now a heel doing what he feels he needs to do to defend his honor, his woman, and his title.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember before the match, they didn't know who she was going to come out with. She's like, "Oh,
she was in the neutral corner for the longest time.
Yeah, she's in the neutral corner, and but it was a great build-up, though. It was.
It really started at Survivor Series '88 when Savage was getting his butt handed to him by Haku, and for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he happens to fall back into the turnbuckle where Hogan gets the tag. Hogan does his thing with Haku, but drops the leg, gets the pin. Savage is looking at him like, what just happened here? And where were you?
Yeah.
Like he had that look in his eye like, can I trust you right now? And that's where I believe it started, and especially as it escalated into the Rumble.
Well,
Hogan accidentally eliminated him.
Right, but remember after the Survivor Series, I think he picks Elizabeth up, right? He picks her up.
Yes, he does. He was hugging her,
and he's posing, and then Macho Man's looking at him like
he's looking at him like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. And then, like you said, then it goes to the Royal Rumble where he eliminated by accident, which is BS. Because if you watch that promo,
you saw him eliminate.
Yeah.
He had it in him to do it.
You know, it's funny. Hogan is like the only babyface that got away with heel stuff. Like he would do heel stuff,
definitely.
like he would poke people in the eyes. You know, he would do stuff that heels do, and he would get away with it.
I got a few examples of that. Case in point, you can look at Royal Rumble 1992.
Yeah,
everybody was rooting for Sid Justice. They're booing Hogan.
Yeah,
and then right before that, when he fought Tuesday in Texas against the Undertaker, what does he do? He opens the urn, puts the ashes in his eyes.
Yeah.
He is the perfect heel babyface.
Yeah, pretty much.
But unfortunately, in this match, well, not unfortunate for everybody that was a Hulkamaniac fan back then, Hulk Hogan does beat Randy Savage for the WWE title. And this was about 18-minute match. It was 17 minutes, 54 seconds. Hulk Hogan beats him. I think this was his third reign. Second reign. I'm sorry.
Second reign.
So second reign as champion, and Savage is now on the outs as champion after holding it for 1 year and doing a pretty good job defending it against everybody. He didn't back away from a challenge. He would face Andre in the cage. He fought DiBiase, Bad News Brown, Ultimate Warrior, whoever it was, Twin Towers. He was there and he delivered. But I mean, the fact that they let him hold the title for a year was impressive. But yeah, I think the wrong guy was heel on this one.
Yeah.
Looking back anyway now.
Back
then as kids, Hogan made our night.
Yeah. I know. I was happy to see Hogan win. Don't get me wrong. But
now I look at it and go, this should have been the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was still a great feud, a great build-up, and the match was really good too.
Yeah. And they had almost a year-long feud leading to that because they fought at SummerSlam. They did the December steel cage match, Savage and Zeus against Hogan and Beefcake. So, I mean, they had a good year-long feud. And matter of fact, there was even a match shortly before WrestleMania 6 where the WWE title and the crown, because you remember Savage became Macho King after he beat Duggan for it. Duggan beat Haku. He beats Duggan. Savage put the crown up. It was crown versus title. Naturally, it ends in a double DQ. So, it's not like you're going to see WWE champion King Hogan.
Right, yeah.
But, they had a good feud even leading up to WrestleMania. And then, they reunited as a tag team in WCW, but that's another story.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So that
was WrestleMania 5, everybody.
Yeah, great. Probably one of the best WrestleManias, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mega Powers Explode was like one of the biggest matches of all time. So can't say anything else really. I mean, it was a great show and goes down in history.
Squash matches, but all three title matches were top notch.
Solid, yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's our WrestleMania review. We're doing WrestleMania 6 next in the retro series. So you guys let us know what you think. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.